Have you ever played a game at first and thought, man, this game's just kind of mid, not gonna lie, only to then come across the same game 4 years later to find it's still live? Yeah, that was my exact thoughts on Pokémon Unite. Pokémon Unite is a Pokemon-themed MOBA game that released on the Switch and mobile back in 2021 during the height of the pandemic. You play in 2 teams of Pokemon which fight against each other to see whoever scores the most points. In order to score points and kill towers, you have to gather points from defeating either other players or other NPC Pokemon on the map and gather the Pokeball orbs that drop. The major difference from Pokémon Unite to other MOBAs is that there is no creep waves for you to fight under, nor is there any enemy tower damage that is headed your way. Your ally tower grants a small shield and a small health regen for you to keep fighting on the front lines. Each tower is 100 points that must be reached to destroy that tower. Once destroyed, you can then proceed to knock the next one out. The base tower, however, cannot be destroyed, and that's the one that's right next to your base. The game released to a lukewarm reception to the price of $3.99 and was definitely, at least in my mind, a flavor of the week kind of game, but has since refused to die. Come 4 years later, when most of the games of this kind would have died out and long since been dead, shout out to my main man, Gundam Evolution! Man, may you rest in peace. Pokemon Unite is still alive and kicking, somehow. Not only is this game alive, it actually seems to have an active player base. This is what I can only assume to be because of Pokemon brand slapped inside of it like a pacemaker keeping its heart ticking along. With the release of the Switch 2, I was one of the first of my friends to pick it up, and while I was addicted to Mario Kart World, I was also showing off the console to my friends over Discord. My buddy who loves Pokemon Unite but has stopped playing because of the performance issues asked me to boot up the game, and so after booting it up and logging in, much to all of our surprise, the game loaded quickly and I didn't want to rip my eyes out of my sockets because of the performance issues. The Switch 2 runs this game at a smooth and crisp 60 FPS while in match, and while the original Switch also ran, it had dips in latency. The same menus that the Switch 1 had struggled with, the Switch 2 just breezed through. And with this, my fate was sealed, young travelers, and I was none the wiser. I was going to be forced into playing this Pokemon MOBA game with my friends because they loved the game and I really wanted to skydive without a parachute. Kids, don't do that. It's actually not healthy for you. Fun fact. Honestly, I was actually quickening my own despair because I was calling my friends' local GameStops to see if they had the Switch 2 in stock and then telling them where they are and where they weren't in stock. By the way, you're welcome, assholes. And so when the time came, the value brand Three Musketeers at home set to work on playing the game I had thought long since dead. You know, funny thing about MOBAs, they're a team-based game, and holy f***, some of the players are so brain dead that when they stick their heads out the car window, their skull whistles from the air passing between their ears. And before you even argue with me that these are children, I heard a fully grown adult Hispanic man cursing me out in every curse known to the Spanish language that would make a practicing witch proud. Regardless, playing as a 3-stack is way better than playing solo, and I'll be damned if I do. Most of the roles I really like to play are supporter roles because I don't care about my stats, I just want to win the game as a team, and so I picked Blissey and made my way through my games. When I first played this game back in 2021, the meta at the time was pretty much waste your time for the first 8 minutes, fight at Zapdos, and then win the match. The only thing that changed now is it's Rayquaza, and sometimes you can actually claw back a victory. That is crazy for a MOBA or any game that the only last 2 minutes matter. Have I mentioned this game is actually popular in Asia? And I mean really popular in China and Japan. So if we take the data from Google Trends and look and compare between Pokemon Unite and League of Legends is still the #1 MOBA in the world at this point. However, if we restrict the region to only Japan, which is a good thermometer for the Asia-specific area, we can actually see that while League of Legends is #1, Pokemon Unite is half the search results. While this doesn't take the whole region into account, we can generally assume that the trends of the area follow the same. China absolutely loves this game and has run tournaments for this game as well, and pretty much all of Asia has done this. We just can't see the stats for China because all the stats are hidden behind their systems. It just blows my mind how popular this game is over there, and a lot of the time me and my friends ended up getting shunted off to Asia-specific servers while playing, which makes sense why this is happening now in hindsight. Not only did I find out they hosted Chinese tournaments for this game, I also found out they hosted regular tournaments and like World Series in America for this game. Again, I had thought this was just a flavor of the week game, not that it would have a competitive scene in any regard. Honestly, while I say I'm surprised to see a game not dead, actually it makes me kind of glad to see these sort of games just stick around because the community really loves it enough and is supported by fans. All too often do games get killed off and then left to die and fade in memory. I'm just happy to see that the game's still alive because someone's passion was making this game. And if you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Or don't, I'm not your boss. Alright, let's kick the good things off about this game, and first of all, the games are relatively short and there is no indefinite timer that forces you to sit down for an hour to two while playing one match of this game. Once you get in, you're there for only 10 minutes max, which is absolutely perfect for a casual playstyle because honestly, sometimes I just don't have the time to commit an hour-long game in a single setting, but that's just the adult me talking. Another really good thing about this game is the massive roster size. The game supports a 76 Pokemon roster, which is incredible for variety in the game. With the pool of the rest of the Pokemon out there just to run ideas through, at least the upcoming Pokemon won't be running out anytime soon. The game is actually quite generous in terms of items and currency to keep you playing. I was able to unlock a few Pokemon while playing since coming back, and I've never felt restricted in terms of gameplay that I had to buy any premium currency for. The games are simple in concept, but have a surprising amount of depth with only 2 lanes or duo to a lane, with jungle being the only solo section. You also have side objectives both on top and bottom that you have to compete for to give your teammates a buff and to make capping easier. Being able to make a comeback is also way easier than other MOBAs. You can be down a whole 300 points, but if you happen to win the last fight of Rayquaza, then you end up securing the win back in your direction. The game is also free to play, so you don't even have to spend anything. Being able to just download and play within minutes is pretty nice. Plus, the community is still kicking after 4 years, and spending money is not even required to play. Regardless of your skill level, the game feels fun to play at every level. You can go into the game and just play to have fun, and once you get into the higher levels of play, you can get a feel for how fun the game really is to play. Unlike other MOBAs, the tower self-defense aspect just isn't there. You have to actually engage with the game and enemies and vice versa. There is no tower farming because really you just have to actually engage and go score points on the other tower to destroy it. This is a Pokemon game. If you like Pokemon games, then you'll love this game because you just get to run around as your little favorite Mon and decimate your enemies. Speaking of opponents, the overall skill level of the game in general just isn't that high, and once you start getting the hang of the controls and you're decent enough at video games, then you can start really climbing well in this game. And if you're not really good at video games, well, don't worry, most of the other people that you play with aren't really good either. Because of the game's overall themes, it attracts a wide variety of skills across all players, which leads to a more thriving game. Like finding what you think is $100 on the ground, and then you flip it over to only reveal that it's a fake Christian Bill pamphlet. Something just brings a level of disappointment that you feel in the pit of your soul. Let's start off with the obvious here, in that the game's main menu and home screen look god-awful. Like, this is just pure mobile game UI vomit that is just rough to look at. Like, the game was developed on the Switch, but instead it just ended up being Frankensteined into a mobile port instead. The menu vomit with the clutter on the screen takes up way too much visual real estate. Second is a little nitpick that I have with this game, and when you queue with friends and you have to go back to the main lobby, the lobby return screen icon covers some of the menus behind it, which just makes it impossible to see what's actually behind that. The next gripe I have is, oh my god, the vast majority of players are just awful. So because the game's easy to get into, little Timmy can also get into the game. But when the drooling, germ-ridden, flesh-bagged Timmy and his equally smooth-brained friend Clifton proceed to throw as hard as they can in my games, I get a little bit tilted, to say the least. The lack of player skill is a real issue and is infuriating to deal with. While matches are short, the game itself is really simple, and the fatigue sets in so much quicker than other titles, which is in part due to how simple the games are. There are no items to build within the match, so any items you do bring from outside the match are static and just more impactful. Ultimately, you're playing the same game every game, and this just leads to increased fatigue overall. And the last complaint I have with this game is that the scoring metric support roles are undervalued and often underscoring, and the only thing that matters at the end is kills and points secured. So when you end up at the bottom of the scoreboard points-wise, you end up feeling you were underappreciated in the role that you're playing, even though you had a significant impact when playing with the rest of the team. Look, at the end of the day, this is a decently good Pokemon MOBA, not that there's really much to compare to. The balance is kind of whack, but when you compare it to any MOBA or Pokemon game, what really is perfectly balanced? Honestly, I'm just happy to see that after 4 years the game is still alive and kicking because more games have come in and gone in the same time frame. If you don't plan on taking this game seriously, then you can have a blast playing. However, if you do plan on taking this game seriously, then I highly recommend you scamming 2 of your friends into playing this and you just carry the weight of 2 window lickers on your team. Pokemon has kept this game alive and Tencent already has my data. Nothing really much has changed and the game has a moderate amount of fun. This game has refused to die and honestly, I'm glad that it refused. I play supports because I like playing comfy and not really interacting with the game in any meaningful way. And so, there you have it. That is my thoughts and my review of Pokémon Unite. What did you think? Comment down below what your thoughts are. And just remember that Game Freak puts the emphasis on the freak in their name.